Hello, it's Alan Fire here of Group Dynamic with another episode of Does It Hold Up, where I'm looking back at some writing from the past and seeing how it holds up today. Today, we're looking at something from about 7 years ago that I wrote called The Psychology of Change, which was about ways to apply the Kubler-Ross stages of grief model to organizational change. And I made the case that a person's needs changed depending on that stage of grief or change acceptance. And I think that the do's and don'ts from the original post definitely hold up. So I encourage you to take a look at it. I was anxious to look at this one post-COVID. I knew it was coming up and I was looking forward to it. I was nervous that maybe the complexity of some of the responses to the pandemic that we had, depending on where we lived, what our workplace was like, what our circumstances were. There were just so many different circumstances that I thought that maybe the variety of those responses might make some of the thoughts in the original post seem overly simple. But I don't think so. I did witness a lot of people react poorly to some of the don'ts from the article, especially the ones that would minimize people's concerns or say, oh, it's going to be okay, or push people to go back to normal too quickly. There was a real variety in that. And I did see some folks in leadership roles try to do a one-size-fits-all, especially as we headed out of 2020 and into 2021. But I think in addition to that, pandemic or not, another point that holds up is the idea that too many leaders focus on the whole group in times of grief or change. And this means that they miss the chance to attend to the relationship power that one-to-one management affords us. Everybody handles things differently, and a change situation is a stressful time for leaders. It's natural for you and me as leaders to try to find something that will work for everyone. It's a little bit more efficient, but maybe not quite as effective. It's less possible to do that in tough times. But there is good news. It is a time for you to employ the power of building those individual relationships with each individual member of your team, or even each individual teammate. I saw a few businesses, including a couple on my client list, where the CEO themselves made personal calls or check-ins or even visits to each member of the organization. And we're talking about hundreds of people. That was extremely well received. It was one of the most effective things that happened. And that those CEOs didn't have this exact same conversation with everybody. So it was a really good example of how that can be handled. So employ that power, build your one-on-one relationships, whether it's a change time, a grief time, a crisis time, or any time. It's one of the most powerful things we can do is make sure we connect with everybody. And then you also have some greater insight into each individual when there is a time of crisis, grief, or change. So then you can apply some of the do's and don'ts. I think it holds up. Thanks for watching.